Last one is role playing. In performing the role play of another person, students step outside their accustomed role and adopt the role of another person. The approaches number 2 and number 3, then we have what is called critical literacy-based approach. Here, read the text integration and action. Readers may even resist the meaning and develop new meanings within the boundary of their own perspectives and identities, along with authorial, contextual, and disciplinary context of English literature. So while understanding the meaning, culture, and messages in the literary text loaded with the English and Western values, teachers can help students to be critical of these all and compare this with their own values, which can be in the form of Islamic values or other local values. So I think that's all, my presentation. Thank you very much. Back to Ibu Moderator.
Thank you very much, Prof. Dr. Zuliati Rahmah, MPD, for the outstanding presentations. Now, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the conference next would be handed to the moderator, to the Mr. Edi Tayyib MA. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Bu Biba. Ladies and gentlemen, it seems that we have technical problems. Yeah, we cannot hear the sounds clearly. So before we start the discussion, I want to make sure.
Yes, I can hear you.
But it's not too clear, sir.
Yeah, okay. Okay, it's not really clear. Okay. Is it buffering? Or my picture is freezing? No?
No, it's good now.
No, it's good?
It's a little bit delay.
Yeah,
little bit delay.
Little bit delay.
Okay. I want to make sure that everything is clear, and then we can start the discussion.
Okay. And now clear.
Now clear, yeah. Okay. Okay. Everyone hear my voice? There? Okay, your video is okay, but the audio is sometimes problematic. Okay, I read it in the chat box. Okay, now clear. Yeah, maybe that is because of the internet connection. Okay, the voice is breaking up. Okay, I can hear the sound clearly now. So I think we can continue our webinar this morning. Okay, Pak Kiki, you hear me well?
Yes, I hear you. I can hear you very clearly.
Okay, Pak Bahrain.
Yes, that's
you
clear,
hear
sir.
me?
Thank you.
Okay.
But a little bit delay.
Okay,
little
thank
bit
you.
Delay, it's still.
Still little bit delay. Okay. We have contacted the operator. So he is fixing the the internet connection. Okay, okay, good. Okay, sorry, maybe we'll 1 minute to let the operator fix the problems.
Good.
Okay. So we are very sorry for your inconvenience, ladies and gentlemen.
We have no.
Okay, okay. Okay. Can we start now?
Yes, of course.
If everyone my voice well, so I will start the session. Okay. Okay, thank you. And we'll start the session. Okay, unfortunately, we cannot listen to Prof. Julia's presentation very well. Okay, good, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, now we'll start the session. Okay, as the MC explains that the session now is literature in EFL setting. Yeah. I will introduce you to the two presenters before they start presenting their topic. Okay, first we have Dr. and then he continued his master degree in Universitas Negeri Malang, and he currently graduated from PhD program in Universitas Negeri Malang, yeah, and in overseas. Okay. He became presenters in Malaysia, Singapore, and 2 years ago, he went to America. Okay. He is very famous. Yeah. He is a famous motivator, actually. So maybe some of you see his faces in television, or maybe you read his articles in online media. Yeah, so that is articles that he already wrote. Yeah, if I read every one of them, so it will take for 20 minutes or more, yeah, to read all of them. So he is very productive. Okay. And then the first speaker, Pak Kiki, will present about literary competence in EFL setting. And Pak Bahrain will present about nationalism in Indonesian literature. Many people like literature. Many people enjoy reading literature, but not all people can enjoy studying literature. How so? The question is how to integrate enjoying literature and studying literature in one time. So to discuss that, first I want to invite Pak Mozaki Afifuddin to present his topic. Okay, time is yours, Pak Kiki. Maybe for 20 to 25 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. So I think I'm going to be very slow because of the internet problem. I hope that everybody can hear my voice and can see my screen. That I'm sorry. Let me do this. Oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry for the technicalities. Okay, so I am in one of my other activities is I'm also part of a trainer of intercultural learning for intercultural learning program of the American Field Service, focusing more on teaching of literature or in a setting, literary competence, critical literacy, as Professor has already mentioned, and then after that, I'm going to present you the case study that I what is it, made, yeah, study that last. I'm sorry. Yeah, so related to literary competence, it was introduced by Jonathan Kessler in 1975, and it refers to literary competence understood as reader-oriented, since every reader may have different implicit internalized knowledge of rules of literature, different acquaintance with literary texts, and different mature. Yeah. If in an interpretive community, the practices of reading literature other readers may interpret works in the variety of ways, then that is the fact of literary competence. So how can I really assess the literary competence of my students, especially of the learners. I'm going to use learners and instructors in this. I found out that Spyro, this is actually her essay in one of the compilation of a book related to assessment to literature by Christopher Bloomfield. Yeah. So Spyro, as you can already read, as you can already see on the screen, I hope that it is very clear. If virtual competence according to Spyro consists of 6 what I will later mention as dimensions. The first dimension is informed appreciation of literature, as you can already see. Second is ability to respond appropriately to all literature in the target language. Ability to analyze and define responses in literature, personal experience, or to empathize with texts. Ability to place literature within a wider social, cultural, linguistic context, which is also this dimensions later is going to be like very related to the local culture. And later, of course, enjoyment of literature is going to be related to more individual preferences in literature. So Spyro understood that literature teachers may have different perception upon the competence in ideas and in practices when the definition is taken indivisibly. Since once again, it's one definition. The challenge is, of course, Spyro understood that if we take it as one whole definition, it's going to be a bit challenging. Yeah. So another problem also may arise upon the broad definition of competence, which is going to be difficult to be assessed, since once again, we lecturers, instructors are also trying to provide assessment for the students. And then sometimes one of my challenges when I'm assessing literature, when I'm teaching literature and assessing the literature, my students' works, for example, it's sometimes I don't know where to start. Yeah, I didn't know where to start. Okay, while for the readers of literature in foreign language, especially, the problem may develop from linguistic competence on the language being used in the text with a different socio-cultural background between the readers and the text. Once again, since we are talking about EFL context or EFL settings, since we sometimes read literary texts from English or American or other countries, not only American once again, so sometimes Australia, India, Malaysia, Singapore. So we have lots of literary works which are actually good, but as we also, since we read for the readers especially, this is going to be also a problem, since in Indonesia especially, we are looking at English once again as a foreign language. Okay, I need to stop a bit. I hope that everybody can hear my voice clearly. Okay, so that's the need of dividing the literary competence is crucial, considering the literature is in foreign language, since the patterns and systems intuitive to native speaker may be unfamiliar to the foreign reader. This is also one of the challenges. Yeah, when I was teaching literary work, this is also I would like to share when I'm teaching literature in the classroom. Sometimes the critical what I say is the critical literacy of students is actually if we're talking about the freedom of interpretation is actually what is it? Enormous. Yeah, it's I can say it's going to be like a very good data sources to find, to discover what is actually our students feelings through literary works. This is something that later also I'm very interested in what is it in researching. Spiro then, continuing my presentation, Spiro then proposed to divide those skills into a scheme of prioritizing and identifying literary skills, such as prioritizing skills which are thought to develop literary appreciation, prioritizing skills which are appropriate to the teaching objectives of the group, prioritizing skills which are not text dependent, for example, like can be related to values or something else, and can thus be generalized into any text, and separating skills which are specifically linguistic from those which are specifically literary. So, for example, like what have already presented by Prof. Zul, when we are teaching literary works, actually there are several choices what to do with literature. So, but by this, Cairo actually tried to make it more elaborative through the teaching of literature, especially in EFL setting. So, based on the idea of the scheme, my study thus modified the definitions into dimensions to discover the priorities, the prioritized aspects of literary competence as being performed within the classroom of literature in EFL setting, and the prioritized skills and knowledge as being perceived by instructors and the learners. This was what I did in my study. And then the case study. So continuing to the next agenda of my presentation is I'm going to talk about the case study that I did. So the case study, the theoretical framework of my case study is, as you can see on the screen, that the teaching of literature in the EFL setting, I see it as the deliverance or the performance of literary competence between the learners and the instructors. Yeah. So, for example, as you can see on the screen, we as instructors, we have our own literary competence actually, and we don't know on what level sometimes. So that's why sometimes if many of my friends thought that teaching literature is difficult. Yes, it is. But sometimes if this Spiro's literary competence can be applied within the teaching of literature, it's going to be easier in teaching literature. Okay, so but once again, we have our own literary competence actually. Yeah, and then after that, the learners' literary competence, learners with their own personal experience and then personal in reading literature, especially they also possess learners' literary competence. While on the other hand, since we are within this classroom, the interaction is going to be like, there is a term called critical literature pedagogy, which once again I cannot present today. Probably on the other time, I would like to also share this to all of you about critical literature pedagogy. But it's mostly related to how actually instructors present their assessment, how the instructors provide questions related to the assessment, related to the choice of literary canons, and etc. While on the other hand, the learners' literary competence are presented or performed through their critical literacy, which is related not only reading, writing, but also through their speaking, what are actually they are thinking about. Thinking out loud. Once again, sometimes within the classroom, we ask students to think out loud what is actually their interpretation about literary works. So those are actually critical literacy, since within those presentations, these students show their identity, sociocultural background really at the same time. Which is, once again, this is within this. When I did my studies, was like a very rich data that I was confused. So which data should I present to my dissertation? Okay, so yeah, at last it was the performed literary competence is actually, it's like a combination between what is actually happening within the classroom. So yeah, as I've already mentioned to you, that all theories and concepts under the umbrella of theory of teaching of literature in EFL setting is assumed to be unacknowledged by the instructors and the learners, thus making the study perceived such condition as genuineness of the setting to be observed on the existence of the concept of literary competence. Yeah, once again, since I myself, when I was teaching literature, I didn't really be aware of I didn't feel that I'm aware of my literary competence. And then these students and also these instructors that I observe also do not really have such kind of awareness that this happens. So that's why I have a positive idea about this genuineness of the setting of the study. So it's a qualitative research, as you can already guess or assumed. So I used text analysis, video audio recording analysis, observation, interview. The data are retrieved from the classroom observations and student responses, and from the interviews. The classroom observations include the syllabi of the courses. Since I'm going to focus on, there are 2 courses that I focused on my study. The teacher talks of the instructors and the students' presentations, which are videotaped and transcribed. The learners' reader responses include the reader responses from the assignments, middle and final semester tests, and assignments and posters. Yeah, while the interviews are recorded and transcribed, all the data and the form of textual data. So the literature classrooms are one classroom of basic knowledge of English prose. I'm sorry, this is for the typo. Basic analysis of English prose for the 4th semester, and one classroom of advanced analysis of English poetry of the 6th semester. The choices of these 2 genres of prose and poetry is assumed that both engulfed the genres of all literary works. It's also within the semester, in this even semester, there is no drama class, so I can only observe these 2 classes: basic analysis of English prose and also advanced analysis of English poetry. Yeah, 2 different instructors with different years of experiences in teaching of literature of the FL setting are being observed in interviews. 3 learners from the 4th semesters and 3 learners from the 6th semesters for the interviews, and also form their works or assignments for the critical literacy that I'm going to, as I use as the source of the data. So, and then I also develop instruments using Spiro's definition of literary competence. So the first dimension, I focused more on the informed appreciation of literature, which focuses more on the acknowledged literary elements, such as the intrinsic aspects and the extrinsic aspects of literary works, and the ability to appreciate those elements performed within the reader responses. Yeah, and then the second dimension, ability to respond appropriately to all literature in target language. I developed this dimension to focus more on the genuineness of the reader responses and the style, whether it is required by the lecturers. For example, like these students are required to speak, these students are required to develop posters, these students are required to develop essays, how many words, how many. So those are also the style, and also the language itself, the use of the language, which is related English, since it's an English foreign language classroom, so it's going to be English, the use of English. That's also the style. But once again, such genuineness of answers are also included within this assessment. The third dimension is ability to analyze and define responses in literature, which focuses more on the content of the reader responses. Once again, whether the content is really talking about analyzing. Once again, the process of analyzing also is very important. The process of the choices of in analyzing, sometimes some students have provided examples or supports from the literary works to support their ideas, something like that, which also related to how to analyze, how to provide a good analysis of in literature. The fourth dimension is ability to relate literature to one's personal experience, to empathize with text, focuses on readers' personal engagement with the literary texts. This is going to be related to this aspect or this dimension is actually quite personal. So sometimes if we have in my study that I did, that I sometimes have to really dig up what is actually how do you feel about the characters, for example. Do you feel something about the characters, since, for example, like if the story is very sad, or if the story is present happiness, something like that. So such personal engagement is actually something which we as instructors can assess. And then the fifth dimension, the ability to place literature within a wider social, cultural, linguistic context, focuses on the provision of different perspectives toward literary text within the reader responses. On a higher level, this is going to be related to theories of, for example, like sociology, psychology, what is it? In analysis, history of, yeah, colonialism, something like that. But on the other hand, this is also opens up something else, which later I'm also going to talk about more, especially what actually what is has been provided by Prof. Zul about how actually values actually can be a very rich way or basis to what is it, to assess our students' reader responses. Yeah, so the last dimension, enjoyment of literature, focuses on our awareness of preferences and the process of reading literary text. Since once again related to awareness, so these students are, usually my question is going to be like, do you like, do you enjoy reading poetry? Do you like reading poetry? Or which poems do you like, for example? And then, so, do you know what is, for example, like, do you understand your process in reading literary works, especially in English? And then, but of course, I also sometimes compare it to the Indonesian literary works, whether these students are actually more familiar with. So, and the findings, the literature classroom in EFL setting, in my context, once again, the study is limited to this setting, which of course the audience later can also develop later into further study cases, case studies in other cases. So, but in my case, in my study, I found that this setting provides rich findings on the performance of the dimensions of Spiro's literary competence. The findings show that the scheme of priority and of the dimensions of informed appreciation of literature and ability to analyze and define responses in literature that the curriculum developer has set in the syllabi of both courses show the importance of prioritizing literary competence. Once again, this is the genuineness of unknowing of literary competence, that the scheme of priority, that even the curriculum developer within this context actually have provided such ability to prioritize the dimensions. Yeah, prioritize the two dimensions of which is informed appreciation of literature and ability to analyze and define responses. In the teaching and learning process, the instructors show that they are able to include other dimensions within the activities of the teaching learning process in not only reaching the prioritized skills of dimension by the curriculum, but also gaining engagement of discussion about literary texts and also gaining the learners' engagement to the literary texts. So within the approaches of within the classroom, these instructors actually added more variety of dimensions, so to help in analyzing or in using examples of other even life or real life examples sometimes, which is very interesting. That this is actually related once again to literary competence. The inclusion of other dimensions is usually triggered by the classroom condition and the content of literary texts. So, for example, like if the literary text focuses more on values, or for example, like we are talking about the theme of a poem or the theme of a prose, for example, sometimes it's more also related to, we can relate this to cultural values, local values. What is actually different from these cultures, for example? What can be accepted, what we cannot accept. This can be a very big discussion with the students, especially if the classroom is is easy for us to dig, to have a really good discussion with. But sometimes, of course, some classrooms are very quiet and they just listen to the instructors. So the challenges that these instructors also provide examples is once again trying to trigger such engagement within the classroom. So the ways of the instructor include other literary competence dimensions, indicate that the experience and competence in the teaching of literature is category EFL setting. Yes, even though once again, for example, like the lecturers or the instructors of advanced analysis of English poetry is has more experience than the lecturers of basic analysis of English prose, but both once again provide a very rich dimensions of literary competence that they possess. I'm sorry. Okay, so the findings also expound that literature instructors perceive the concept literary competence globally and not in a divisible manner. So this is actually related to what Jonathan Fuller has mentioned, that literary competence is global. Literary competence is, so knowledge about literature, or what Prof. Zul has already also mentioned, they relate to the combination between the knowledge of literature and the knowledge about literature. Yeah, so the way these instructors interrelate the dimensions of Spira's literary competence within their teaching and their perceptions supports the indivisibility characteristics of the dimensions and support the 6 dimensions in one single definition of literary competence. However, what these instructors may have not realized is that they also divide and prioritize the literary competence to provide observable assessment to literary competence as being performed by the learners in the classroom. Yeah, so, and then in comparison to the instructor's perception of literary competence, the learners perceive literary competence as a difficult competence, and on the other hand, actually, since we did through the interview that I did, they have actually performed literary competence well based on the activities in the classroom, based on their own critical literacy. These students, especially the subjects that I interviewed, I didn't choose this subject once again as very. I didn't choose the best students. I didn't choose once again, it's very voluntarily. I asked students, do you want to be within my research? So if they have volunteered. So once again, since this is also voluntarily research, so I think the genuineness of the richness of the data is once again, it's something that I found. So until now, I think there's going to be like I'm still thinking what other researchers based on this data. Okay, these learners perceive literary competence from the enjoyment, interpretation, analysis perspective. Yeah, so the limitation of the learners are mostly this, even though, later the learners actually can show that they have such other literary competence. The perspective of enjoyment of the learners that the learners perceive is mostly based on their personal experience in reading literature in the first language and not in the foreign language. Yeah, when I asked about other, once again, since English, sometimes it's also difficult to read English literature, especially when the choices of the canons, of literary canons, are very old, using old English, or even though I always propose to my students that we should read William Shakespeare, you should read Geoffrey Chaucer, you should read the classics. But once again, of course, these learners are having difficulties because of their linguistic competence. So yeah, the reading of foreign literature may hinder enjoyment, since linguistic competence is the basis of literary competence. Furthermore, the perspectives of interpretation and analysis are related to the course objectives that these learners have learned throughout the semester. Yeah, so they can understand, they actually have understood what is actually within the curriculum. Based on the academic reason, these learners prioritize the literary competence performance, mostly in the dimensions of informed appreciation of literature and ability to analyze and define its contents in literature. The common thread that can be inferred from the findings is that the genuineness of the performance of the dimensions of literary competence within the literary classrooms in this specific EFL learning. EFL setting, I'm sorry. The instructors and the learners' exposure to literary texts on their life experience become the foundation on their approaches to the teaching and learning literature. This is also something that I found out when I was interviewing the instructors and the learners, and also I'm trying to reflect to myself that yes, sometimes the older we are, we actually have a lot of experience to read literary text, to see literary text in more wiser perspectives. The findings also provide a conclusion that instructors and learners do not find language as a barrier to the literary texts, since they are not aware that the competence that they possess in the process of the reading, interpretation, and analysis of English literary texts. Yeah. So there are several recommendations that I would like to recommend to all of us. This is also to remind myself. First, Pyro's literary competence is worth to be further explored and analyzed in other classroom settings. Quantitative analysis in assessing the scheme of priority of literary competence within the existing assessment of literature and relating the literary competence with this course are needed in order to provide another perspective of the existence of literary competence. More qualitative analysis using other methods focusing on one specific dimension of Pyro's literary competence are also needed in order to provide deeper and more thorough analysis. Secondly, further studies can be undergone focusing on the relationship and the comparison between the learner's exposure from reading literature within the classroom and beyond the classroom. So this is also something that I'm also interested to discover. And then such studies are needed in order to provide further findings from the learner's perspectives, how the certain exposure to literature can provide literary competence. This is actually, I have already discovered some small data on this when I was interviewing the instructors and the learners. For the learners of literature, it is recommended to explore and be aware that literary competence, we need to be aware of our literary competence. We have this kind of literary competence actually. We should be proud that we have literary competence actually. Yeah. If we enjoy reading literature, we have literary competence. If you can analyze, you can talk about literary texts, you have literary competence. You can interpret the way anything that you like, you have such literary competence. So this is something that we need to be aware of and also be proud of. Yeah. So we can also, through this awareness, we can have more choices and can be more elaborative in responding to literature. Lastly, the study recommends the literature instructors to gain more exposure to Pyro's literary competence, since this definition, when elaborated, can help the teaching of literature can be more focused and more objective, especially in the assessment. The study also recommends language instructors, English instructors, Arabic instructors, Indonesian instructors, who learn to use literary text as a means of teaching language to also be exposed to Spiro's literary competence. The exposure to Spiro's literary competence is expected to develop an awareness on the instructor's personal literary competence and develop ability to scheme the priority of literary competence, especially as I also know that the new K13 in Indonesia, the new curriculum also try to use literature within the classroom. And then the CEFR also, in the teaching of reading or the test of reading, usually also uses literature as also a basis of the assessment. Additionally, the concepts of critical literacy and critical literature pedagogy also need to be further researched, since the study only limits itself to the concept of literary competence. Spiro's literary competence dimensions open up possibilities to provide learners and instructors to integrate local values within teaching of literature in other languages and develop assessments based on local curriculum. So, which is later, of course, will be presented by Pak Bahrain if we are going to talk about nationalism through literature. Thank you very much. I guess that's all from me. I'm going to return the chair to Edith.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Kiki, for sharing. I think it is a useful insight of the teaching of literature. Maybe it will, I think it will motivate us to do better in the teaching of literature. Yeah. Okay, and ladies and gentlemen, once again, we do apologize for the internet connection, and that was beyond our control. But after the operator fixed it, I think it has been clear. Yeah, so we can hear the presenters well and clearly. Okay, and Pak Kiki, that have to answer it then now. Yeah. QA session will be after the second presentation from Bahrain. So for the participants who want to raise question, later you can raise your hand, or you can also write the second presentation. Okay. And also, I want to inform you that the certificate link will be shared after the second presentation. So after Bahrain present his topic, we are going to share the certificate link in the chat box. So you can fill the. Okay, it will run until 12 o'clock, so we still have 45 minutes. And without further delay, I want to invite Bahrain to present his topic. Bahrain will present for about 20 to 25 minutes, and our time is yours.
Before I start, I just want to check the speakers. Do you hear me well? My voice is clear?
Yes, clear, Pak Bahrain.
All right.
Yes, clear.
Very good. Okay. A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Huwallazi arsala rasulahu bil huda wa dinil haq liyuzhirahu 'ala dini kullihi walau karihal musyrikun. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh la nabiyya ba'd. Allah ta'ala fil Qur'an, a'udzubillahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Zalikal kitabu la raiba fihi hudal lil muttaqin. Shadaqallahul azim. Okay, let me share. Have you got my screen? You get it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Honorable, the Dean, and also the head of departments and the president of DITA, Prof. Zulianti, and also the speakers, Dr. Muzakir, Kiki, and also the Mr. Eddie as the moderator for today. And also the participants. I think now we have 221 participants. And Assalamualaikum and good morning or good afternoon. All right. Thank you for having me for this seminars. I think this is a very valuable seminars, I think. And for today, I'm going to share about literature and nationalism and integrating spirits of nationalism in literatures. For case study, that is my research, is about the role of the press in nation building as reflected by Pramudia Anantatur's footstep. Okay, I think what Prof. Zul uh, has presented just now, that's very interesting, about knowledge about literatures. I think this presentation is part of that issues. And one of the values that I'm going to talk is about the nationalism, the values and the literatures. Okay, this is, I think, only the visualization of my background that Mr. Eddie has presented it. This is only visualization. I just want to visualize it only in short term. It's my study. Hopefully that COVID will be ended, and then I continue my study in Australia. But now still COVID. Uh, Okay, this is my study and this is my organization. And this book publication, unfortunately, it is not about literatures. It is about politics. It is about social. Yeah. Hopefully, I can write for the next change for the literature, English literature, inshallah. And some article in journal. This is our journals in Contextualita and Win STS Jambi journal. It is about literatures and also about social science, social issues. Yes, as we study said that I now write some articles for newspapers. You can read my articles. Again, it's not about literatures. It's about politics and about social and cultures, local wisdom, and so on. And some this on TV and radio, and also seminars. My seminars are also not about literatures, also about the motivational seminars. It is why I would like to say that this seminars, this colloquium is very academic for me because some of my seminars is about motivational, about psychology, about development, mental development, and so on. But no problem. I hope that I can share what I have for today. Okay, let's start. I have a video. Maybe. Okay, please watch this short video. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So when this video come to common people, I do believe that will laugh. They will laugh because it's funny. The characters of this movie climb up the statue. But when it comes to us as the academics, as the English literature department students, the lecturers, and the researchers, is this film, this movie, this scene funny? I'm not sure. Because when we talk about the value, a film or movie is one of the literary works. When it comes to the value, as Prof. Zul said, knowledge about knowledge about literatures. So we'll get the value there. So what actually the movie, the short scene want to say? Oh, maybe the film want to say that now the Indonesian people do not respect anymore to the heroes of this country. So what I want to say by showing you this movie is that by learning and studying and do research on the literary works, movie, film, and so on, there's a value of that. One of the value that we are going to discuss today is about uh, nationalism. So, as Pramudi Anantatu says, painting is a literature in colors, literature is a painting in language. So, let's play the language. If we try to analyze what is the movie, what the character, what the actor said, so that would be very meaningful. So, for today, I have a very short question. Is there any correlation between literatures and nationalism? If yes, how to integrate them? So this is a big issue, I think, and also two different issues: literatures and nationalism. Literatures is dealing with novel, poetry, drama, play, and so on. And nationalism is dealing with so many issues. Is it about nation? Is it about politics? It is about many things. So how to connect, how to integrate them in classroom? How actually the studying literatures contribute to our nationalism? That I'm going to talk for this short session, I think. Uh, this is only about the understanding. I think I don't want to talk more about it. If you are English literature department students, I do believe you have understood about this. What is literature about? Literature, uh, referred to Wellek and Warren, is about. It's not just a document of fact. It is not just a collection of real events that in may happen in the real life. Literature can create its own word as the product, yeah, of imagination, the unlimited imagination. So I do believe that uh, as an academic and also literature, English literature department or another literature department, I think, believe that when we study about literatures, we are talking about not about the text, but beyond the text, behind the text. So, uh, okay. So what when we are talking about literature, we will find this thing: poetry, novel, play, film, drama, and short story. That is about. And what is the nationalism? Nationalism is ideology which holds that state and nation should be unified. Yeah, and nationalism is also simultaneously inclusionary and exclusionary, being associated with what the holding building as its banal natures. Nationalism is far right politics, is characterized by radical nationalism in which groups are excluded on racial, ethnic, or cultural ground. This is actually about the issues of nationalism. So the issues of nationalism is about, as I said just now, that about politics, culture, social, democracy, economic, education, religion, norm, unity, gender, law, human rights, etc. This is the issues of this nationalism. So fortunately, actually, these issues, yeah, these issues actually, how to integrate them. All of these issues, those issues, social issues, democracy, political issues, actually are in the literary works. You can find the issues of politics in novel, in film. You can find the issues of unity. You can find the issues of gender, human rights, cultures. All of this issue can be found in literary works. So in short, that when we are reading a novel, when we watch a movie, when we discuss about a novel in classroom, and at the same time, we are talking about those issues. At the same time, we are talking about our nationalism. So, how to do it? How to integrate it? Just to bring the national literatures to the classroom. So, I think uh, for to increase our nationalism, we have to now, especially for English literature department students, we have to use the national literary works for novel, for novel. We have so many. We have so many Indonesian literary works that is very good media for us to study, as media for literary teaching. For example, Pram has this Earth of Mankind Buru Kota, for example. They we let's start the let's study. We have paper boots. Eka Kurniawan have beauty is want, Oki Madasari bone, and so on. There's so many. So for now, I think to increase our nationalism by using literary work, for now we have to use national literary work into classroom. So the spirit of the nationalism actually we can find it in so many literary work, in film, movie, especially in novel. So bring literature into the classroom. Actually, there are five the importance of literature among the students. I just for now I just would like to discuss about only three in correlation with the issues of nationalism. The first one is that about the culture value, as also Mr. Prof. Zul have mentioned us about the culture value. Cultures are built on stories, histories, myths, legend, fable, religion, and so on. So means that the culture, the story also contribute to the student how actually they understand about our nation by what? By reading many literary work, especially maybe for novel. So if the students are to understand and participate in the culture to which they belong, they must first let culture has been built around. So I think it's also about nationalism that can be built by reading the literary work. The second one is that expanding horizons is a good goal of education to expose them to ideas from the other cultures, to teach them about the histories and peoples of the time and the places. So for this case, I would like to say I will give the case study how I understand about the histories about colonization by reading Pramudia Anantatur. At the end of this session, I think I'll tell you about the case study. And the last one, teaching critical thinking. Literature serves as the goal in couple of ways. Many novels encourage critical thinking on their own due to the issues and theme they explore. So, in critical thinking, of course, yes. For English literature department student in the classroom, I always said that you are not only reading for enjoyment. No, it is not for entertainment anymore. When you are a student of English literature departments, a student reading a novel is to encourage you how to critical thinking, to questions uh, whatever behind the text and the theme and then the issues and what actually what Mr. Kiki said that's about read the response how actually uh, the novel, the literary works contribute to your mind, contribute to your mindset, and so on. So, for this case, I would like to present you for case study. This is one of my research. Is about the role of press in nation building as reflected by Pramudia Anantatur's poster. Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, this study, I did research on this novel. I hope that all the participants here have read this novel because I think this is one of Pram's famous novel, Jejak Langkah. So the premise, Footstep is the volume of quarter of novel inspired by the life of one of the pioneers, the Indonesian national awakening and Indonesian journalism, Tirto Adi Suryo. So the purpose of the research to analyze how the press address the native problem as well as to voice out their rights. The people were abused by Dutch through exploitation, oppression, slavery, and subjection. So how does the press contribute to the image of Indonesian nationalism? So the issues of the novel actually is about journalists, Dutch on press, and also native on press. The most remarkable newspaper of this development was Medan Pagi. And then this is the theory. I don't want to talk about that theory. And then this is the theoretical still. What is the finding? The finding is that the role of the press in the first and the second phase, focusing on the Minka's writing activities in the newspaper, this cultures was instilled in the Minka's life since how was the student of HBS. This was much depicted in two various series of Buru Kartet, this earth of mankind and the child of all nations. Hence, for this research, Fanon first and the second verses are not on the focus of the study. So this is the verse. So okay, Medan Medan became medium for the natives to expose the injustice and the oppression done by Dutch colonials. It has been successfully by building public opinion in crushing the sentiment over the government and leads to the resistance of the native government policies. As it is that Malay language, this newspaper can be read by the common people all over the Indies that creates the sense of belonging among the natives. It also helped native organizations to spread their ideas and propaganda. The press eliminate differences among the communities. So the contribution of the press to Indonesian nationhood, actually we have some region-based community, religion-based community, and trader-based community. One of the rule of the press is to eliminate the differences within the society. It is believed that by eliminating such differences, togetherness and sense of belonging will uh, sorry, will be built that can be led to national consciousness. Okay, conclusion of this literary works can the issues of nationalism. Yeah, works cover the issues of nationalism. Use national literary works as a media of learning and teaching literatures in the classroom. And then in order to encourage student nationalism, by reading national literary works, students are able to understand about their nation and nationalism as well. So my recommendation, because when I was studying at Gajah Mada University, literary works that we use in the classroom, we always use the works that come from England, from America, and from Western country. I think it is the time for us, for Lita, I think, in order to encourage our nationalism awareness, I think it is good for us now. We use the English version of national literary work. In order what? In order, that we have to teach our student about our problem, because I do believe that in literary work, in novel, in film, uh, where in this literary works, the issues of the country, the issues about about social problem that will be there. So by reading literary works, I think our students and also our lecturers will get benefit in order to increase our nationalism. I think that's all from me. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Pak Bahrain. Thank you very much for sharing. Okay, and we still have 20 minutes. There are questions. There have been questions in the chat box posted to Pak Kiki, yeah. And we also wait for the other questions for Pak Bahrain, yeah. There have been questions also for Pak Bahrain in the chat box. Okay. As I remember that the first question was posted by Professor Sri Rahmayanti, yeah, I think. Yeah, for Pak Kiki. So how can a teacher or lecturer model the critical literacy in the classroom so that the learners will be encouraged to do it autonomously outside school or campus? Any recommended practical strategies to be implemented in the classroom? And there are also other questions, yeah, after that, Pak Kiki. Maybe you can summarize the question and give the answer. Okay, thank you. Time is yours, Pak Kiki.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ibu Luki, for the question. This is another dissertation examination, I guess. Okay. Yeah, so this is one of the challenges that I faced when teaching literature. Yeah, so I think this is also what is actually being faced also by the instructors. So this is actually related to I'm sorry, Pak Soni's question, that sometimes it's difficult for us to also ask our students to read literary texts. So what I always do in the classroom usually, I usually use literary texts if needed, once again, if needed, to provide examples on how to provide analysis. So if it is an analysis classroom, so of course I have to use literary text in English foreign language classroom. So it is going to be something else that also related to Erma's question actually. So in English, I have already recommended to my friends usually about how to teach, how to use it in the classroom, for example. Literary text is not something which is difficult. We can always choose easier literary texts. There are a lot of resources such as poetry, short stories, and then what else? I would like to share you a screen of a website that I always share in my. It's called the easeoftheweb.com. There are lots of fables and short stories, short stories that some readers may find it easy to read. For example, we have the line only 6 pages, only 8 pages, 11 pages, 42 pages. In this website, I usually use them also to encourage my learners to read literary texts. At least, yeah, it's going to trigger them, especially in my classroom. If it is a literature classroom, that these students should study literature for their finishing their thesis. So, of course, they need to read something which is a canon, literary canon. Mostly it's going to be like choosing the literary canon. But within a classroom of English speaking, English writing, we can actually find these literary works only just to comment on this. What do you think about this text? What do you think about the values? What do you think about the characters? How to show empathy with the characters? This is also sometimes that I also, even though once again I also try to remind my students that literary works are made up, human made, while on the other hand, of course, the authors are trying to provide a certain kind of story that shows us about how to solve problems about life, how to sit this kind of analysis, but not trying to be judgmental too, because if I'm going to use my own values to assess or to judge or to evaluate literary text, is going to be sometimes it's going to be very judgmental, like that culture is wrong, that this culture is our culture is right, sometimes it's going to be like that, but it's not inevitable, but sometimes I'm trying to make it it is still, once again, I think I also need to discuss more about this with other lecturers, since once again this is going to be a very interesting matter to discuss. So another question from you is that talking about infographics. So in one of the classes, infographics too, students even sometimes have the freedom to make posters about their analysis. This is also something that we can also use if from the students, by the students. So the students present that infographics, their interpretation through posters, and then other students can also learn from that. So yes, it is very possible. And then, yeah, this is one important aspect of the consideration of the choice of the canons. Once again, why do we as lecturers sometimes choose this kind of canons? For example, like if I choose my students to read about for example, last semester I provide my students, and then so what happened if you fall in love with someone in the time of pandemic, something like that. So it's a bit related to the situation, and then on the other hand, now I provide my students something which is related to their age, something trying to look for young adult novels that need to find more, to discover more. So this is once again, it's something that I can find in engaging to the literary text within the classroom. So, for example, like if Bahrain also provide, what about using Indonesian? Because once again, Indonesian is going to be easy to understand, or using local language is going to be easier to understand. But on the other hand, of course, in EFL, of course, it's going to be we need to use English text, which is once again, this is the challenge of the instructors, that okay, so related to Pak Soni's question, yeah, once again, I have already provided you the website, Pak Sony. So this is also one website that you can also actually, the students can access, Pak Sony can access, other instructors can access, and there are also lots of poetry pages on the websites that you and then after that, yes, let's have a discussion about this. Even though, yeah, of course, it's not going to be like a very good discussion, but sometimes if the discussion can go well, sometimes I have to drag them into what is actually we are talking about. For example, like we are talking about the psychology, we're talking about mental illness, you're talking about solving problems about suggestion. So I understand that we have the literary competence. We know, we can actually find our solution. That sometimes later we can also discuss this I would like to also know how do you solve your problem. Okay, so once again, Mbak Erma, as Bu Erma also mentioned, question, approaching linguistic competence with literary competence, with literature. Literature, we don't talk about literature, literary canons like the very big William Shakespeare, of course not, but we can use songs, we can use poetry, we can ask students to write poems, we can ask students to sing a song, we can see in poetry, what is it, some, because of the poetic authority of poets, usually sometimes the grammar is wrong, usually in songs or poetry. So how do we fix this? This is also something that we can use in the classroom. So short stories, using them as a basic of speaking. Okay, I think that is all from me. Do I have any more questions? Okay, so I'm sorry, what the assessment? Yeah. Yeah, assessing is something that is I need to since once again, how can I focus on one aspect? For example, like if I focus on informed appreciation of literature, so I should only focus on how the students can express or appreciate about the intrinsic aspects of literary works, the extrinsic aspects of literary work. So how do we show them how to appreciate it, for example? This is something that uh, appreciation is not only accepting, but sometimes in a higher level, we're also talking about evaluating. So if later also related to sometimes if for a higher level classroom, I'm going to talk about how to assess this, how to analyze this. Yeah, and then also sometimes if for lower level students, it's going to be related to do you like the literature, and then whether these students can provide good reason about their preferences, that's going to be a very good assessment. So once again, when we are, when I was thinking of the assessment, some lower level classroom, for example, like the first semester students, just if we want to provide them English literature, for example, just okay, easy literary text, and then easy discussion and easy assessment, which is also, we can also discover myself, why do I like the novel, why do I like the story, which characters do I like, which characters do I empathize with, for example, something like that. I think that's, of course, in the academic classroom, the way to provide the answers for reasons is something that actually we can assess. Okay.
Okay.
Any other question from me?
Thank you, Pak Muzaki.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe first we have to move to
I
Pak
think
Bahrain.
I give it to Pak Bahrain.
To give answer for the questions posted. Yeah, the questions. Yeah. From Ibu Sri Rahmayanti and also Pak Muhammad Farid. Yeah. Okay. The questions. What do you recommend the ratio of making use of domestic, and international literary works to boost our nationalism? Yeah. Okay, Pak Bahrain, time is yours.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, I have Pak Farid, I think, and also about city. The Farid is about the critic. I just would like to say that critic is not negative thing. It is a part. It also contribute to the nation building. It is why maybe what thing the issues that you cannot find in newspaper or maybe in journal that you can find it in literary work. It is why it's a very, I think, one of the useful media for us to to what to increase our nationalism. Uh, when it comes to the classroom, it will become the academic thing. So what you that, for example, the Laskar Pelangi. Yes, if we read the Laskar Pelangi, we will understand about the cultures of Palembang. What is that? Where does it come from? Laskar Pelangi. Sumatera's
Yeah.
Bangka Belitung.
Bangka Belitung, sorry, Bangka Belitung cultures, and also the ways of the people's life there. And I think there's so many things that we are, even a critics about our country. So don't worry about it. And also about the Ibu City, I think a romance topic. Of course, we have to have a what it is. What we need is the critical thinking. In our classroom, we read, as I said just now, that it's not about for entertainment anymore, but we have to see what's the value, what is behind the text, what is the message, what is the agenda of the literary works. So I think it is now for us to bring our national literary work into classroom. I think what Pak Kiki said is that not in we use for especially for English literature department student not using English in Indonesian version, but we have to use the English version because we have so many literary works, Indonesian literary work that have been translated into some other language, especially in English. So I think this now for us, we use English still, but the issues is about our national, our nationalism, about national issues, about our country issues. It is the way for us to bring our student back to the issues of our country. Because if we keep reading Western countries, it's okay. I think for Lita now we can maybe make a percentage, maybe 10% for me. I'm teaching, for example, book report means that the student have to read novels, and then six novel, and then three from the Western country, and three from Indonesian country in English version. So they get the English language skill, but also they get the issues of Indonesian. And by this way, we encourage their nationalism. They understand our problem through the literary works. This is the ways to encourage their nationalism. I think that's the time for us to teach them how we use literary works to tell about our country, to encourage our nationalism. I think that's it from me, Mr. Eddie.
Thank you, Pak Bahrain. Thank you for sharing and answering the questions. And it has been 12 o'clock. I'm very sorry if this Q&A session doesn't cover all of the questions posted by the participant in the chat box. Maybe we can see you in the other webinar or session. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Maybe for the for Pak Kiki, okay. Do you add an answer before we end the session?
Yeah, I think I would like to answer the question of Wipo Chin.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining the conference. So my advice is going to be, usually in my classroom, if I can see that my students are adults enough, they are wise enough, and we can actually moderate the discussion into something which is better. For example, like if you're talking about politics, scandalous politics, for example. So, and then, so how can we see it? I usually provide an example of, can we see why is it seen wrong, and can it be seen right, for example, something like that. So by providing this open-minded questions, I try to ask my students, at least they try to be open-minded with that, even though of course I always try to reflect with their own personal values, or even sometimes religious values that within the community. So how can we see this if it happens in this reality, or how can we fix this if this happens in this reality, something like that. This is going to be a discussion for the adult students, yeah, something like that. But for EYL, of course, not English, English for young learners, even for secondary, tertiary, secondary students, for example, it's going to be something that very dangerous sometimes, for talking about something which is very scandalous. Thank you very much, Heidi.
Okay, thank you, Pak Kiki. And I think this is the end of our session. Yeah. Once again, I thank you very much, Pak Kiki. And
ngapain gituin? Dia mau mandi.
And also for all of the participants. Yeah, I see there are some participants from Malaysia, Philippines, yeah, and also the other countries who joined this webinar. Yeah, we thank you very much and see you next time. I think what the presenter presented today is very useful and insightful, and we can discuss it later on the other webinar. Okay, and the last, I want to give it back to Ibu Habibah. Yeah. From me, I thank you very much, and sorry for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Editoyib. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I hope you find the presentation at this conference are informative and insightful. And as the virtual conference is about to finish, please forgive me for many shortcomings as the master of ceremony. Thank you very much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Pak Kiki, Prof. Zuli, terima kasih Bu Biba, Pak Edi.
Sama-sama, terima kasih. Ya.
Terima kasih Bapak Ibu semua, terima kasih.
Good luck,
Ya,
panitia.
Sama-sama, Bu.
Sama-sama. Lucin, live ya.
Ya, monggo. Thank you very much.
Sama-sama, Pak. Selamat.
Terima kasih semuanya. Lupa Mbak Biba.
Sama-sama. Terima kasih.
Halo semua, saya mohon izin karena ada agenda yang lain. Ya, terima kasih, mohon maaf atas segala kekurangan.
Sama-sama, Pak Bahri. Sama-sama.
Terima kasih, Pak Bahri.
Pak Marzuki, keren, banyak ilmunya, banyak ilmunya. Saya yang banyak belajar nih daripada senior. Thank you very much.
Sama-sama.
Ya, baik. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih, Bu.